Hello, and welcome back as we start our series on retro titles, specifically those that stood out in my history as a gamer. For the purposes of this series, I'll be considering anything from prior to 2004, as, unfortunately, that would be 20 years ago at the point of this recording. I plan on covering games from PlayStation 1, original Game Boy, and others. For today, we'll be discussing the flagship title for the original Xbox. It is my honor to present to you this week the story of Halo: Combat Evolved. Released in 2001, this was my first gaming obsession. I had gotten game guides before, I had participated in impassioned discussions on the playground, but never before had I been so involved in the story, the game mechanics, the soundtrack, the everything. Halo changed the game for first-person shooters, as though not everything was a brand new invention, they raised the bar in almost every way. Teammates' AI were actually helpful and responded to the environment in meaningful ways. Guns were significantly unique and allowed for different playstyles to be equally effective, and the music score itself seemed to almost anticipate your actions, providing the perfect atmosphere of immersion for any given moment. While I could gush nostalgia all day long about the game itself, we're here to discuss the story and lore presented in the game. It's my hope today to present the story in an honest representation as we knew it back then, before the many sequels, spin-offs, and fan creations. For clarity's sake, all of this is based on the Master Chief Collection version, as my original Xbox is simply too far back in storage. However, I won't be including anything from the supplemental terminals that were added into the missions, though they were beautiful and well made. With all that preface out of the way, join me as we open the story to a bombastic introduction for our hero, the Master Chief. We start the game with an opening cinematic, reminiscent of the great flyby from A New Hope. In the distance is a giant ring construct, with our ship, the Pillar of Autumn, careening towards it. Plopped straight into the thick of it, we quickly learn how dire the situation really is. Escaping the ravaging of our previous station, we performed a desperate blind jump through slipspace. Unfortunately, being outmatched in speed and technology, not only are our attackers capable of determining our heading, they actually arrive before we do. Suffering immediate bombardment as we re-enter normal space, we're introduced to the captain of the ship, Captain Keyes, as well as the advising AI, Cortana, as they discuss options. Here, we learn that the aliens are named the Covenant, and we have in fact been entangled in a losing war with them for quite some time. Keyes makes a call to wake a special soldier from stasis, and it's here that we take control of our player character, Master Chief. Waking up mid-assault, we're rushed through the process of shaking off the cobwebs, and are forced to make our way to the bridge, unarmed. Winding our way through the corridors of the giant ship, we catch glimpses of the invading creatures. A couple times, we're even saved by our fellow Marines. Once aboard the bridge, we learn of the captain's plan to evacuate the ship, including the AI Cortana, and we're to be her bodyguard, literally. Cortana is no run-of-the-mill AI. She holds many secrets critical to the safety of humanity, none more important than the secret location of Earth. If Cortana were to be captured by the Covenant, That would effectively be the end of the war. Ordering Cortana to compile a list of possible remaining options for himself, Keyes hands his service pistol over to us and bids us Godspeed. Clearing the corridors and occasional mess hall from the Covenant forces, it quickly becomes obvious that the Covenant are in fact a wide variety of species types, each requiring their own tactic in order to be dealt with. In Halo CE, we only learn of the human colloquial names for each of the Covenant, and they are as follows. We have the Elite, the most humanoid of the aliens. They each have an overshield that seems specially suited to protecting against ballistic-style weapons. The Grunts are the smallest of the Covenant, and can be made to flee if their supporting elites are eliminated. They favor a plasma pistol that can be charged to devastating effect, and seem to enjoy throwing grenades whenever possible. The Jackals, as we refer to them, are a support unit for the Covenant, and while they too favor the plasma pistol the Grunts use, the Jackals also sport a large energy shield that provides them ample cover while allowing them to shoot out. The last of the Covenant we have to fight are the Hunters. These large, lumbering, spiky tendrilled shock units are definitely a force to be reckoned with. Equipped with long, phalanx-style shields, they can also wield as striking weapons for lunge attacks. The Hunters carry a large energy weapon capable of mortar-style attacks. Hopelessly outgunned, we witness the Covenant ships destroying our escape pods as they jettison, only to attach their own boarding crafts to the empty bays. Eliminating the strike forces as we encounter them, we gather any remaining Marines we find and escort them to the remaining pods. When the all-clear is given, we board the last drop pod ourselves and make for the closest landing available, the Ring Construct. As we make our descent, Cortana is amazed to see the Pillar of Autumn actually accelerate past us, also making for the unknown ring. Of all the options she had left the captain, of course he chose to go down with the ship, protecting its secrets. Down on the strange platform, we exit to find a habitable atmosphere, full of lush biomes, though strangely devoid of any accompanying fauna. Hot on our crash site are multiple Covenant troop carriers, forcing us up into the hillside. As we explore and gather supplies, we make for the homing beacons we pick up from the scattered escape pods. Knowing how quickly the Covenant had made our position, we scramble to beat them to save the Marines. Well-trained and reasonably supplied given the circumstances, the Marines all find ways to bunker down and defend their positions. These are no helpless victims. They are our brothers and sisters in arms, and together we rebuff each position till relief arrives. Word has reached the mustering human forces that the captain has been taken prisoner by the Covenant, and we're eager to finally strike back. Tracing the Covenant chatter back to a flagship known as Truth and Reconciliation, the ragtag Marines put together a strike force to sneak in and retrieve their captain. The tip of the spear, of course, will be Master Chief. Finally on the offensive, we are able to get our feet grounded and take the Covenant by surprise, slipping a small team of only a handful of Marines right into the heavily guarded alien supply lines. We literally use their gravity lift to breach the ship and establish the service hangar as our beachhead. Successfully inside the ship, Cortana uses her access to locate the captain's signal within one of the holding cells. Unfortunately, there is still an entire ship worth of hostile covenant between us. Here, the pure, brutal efficiency of the Chief is allowed to run free. Utilizing his rechargeable shields, tapping into years of training to operate alien weaponry when his own are spent, even adapting Covenant technology to further enhance his suit's defenses, a sea of corpses is left in his wake, and the Chief slogs through endless corridors till finally we break through to Keyes. While in captivity, the captain was able to overhear critical information about the previously unknown ring construct. The Covenant referred to it as Halo, and believed it to be some sort of weapon. A weapon they intended to activate. Unsure of its exact mechanism, it was agreed that no matter what, if the Covenant wanted it, we needed to keep it away from them. Cortana would continue to accompany Chief as we went after the main control room for Halo in order to cut off the Covenant, while the captain would go in search of a weapons cache. Off in a remote island and deep underground is a buried control room, the main operations center for Halo. The Covenant are already embedded within the facility, but the Chief has little trouble making his way through them. Finally reaching the central control room, Cortana enters the mainframe and begins exploring for any hints or clues as to the purpose behind Halo's construction. Suddenly, she becomes panicked, insisting we go after Captain Keyes and stop him from accessing whatever weapons he finds. Without any further explanation, we're sent to recover the captain from an installation deep within an overgrown jungle. Almost immediately upon landing, the mission goes sideways. We can hear multiple weapons fire bursts ring out, and even as we approach the building, tracer rounds can be seen firing out against the Covenant. However, as we make our way into the facility, there are no life signs on radar, and radio is all but silent. Continuing deeper, we see more and more signs of struggle, along with some sort of unknown biomaterial splattered everywhere. Strange scratching sounds can occasionally be heard, and the occasionally spotty lighting doesn't help anything. Finally, we come around the corner to another hub room and encounter a Marine. Unfortunately, this soldier's nerves have been shattered, and unlike before, if we attempt to get close to them, they'll turn hostile and fire on us, screaming hysterically. Sprawled across the floor is what remains of the unit, and we take one of the helmet recordings to try to finally figure out what happened here. Sent out to search the facility, the unsuspecting Marine unit quickly began to realize they were being stalked by something, and it wasn't the Covenant. A terrible, horrifying sound rings out through the installation as a horde of tiny, tentacled creatures come pouring from everywhere. Hulking masses of putrid flesh wail on them with tentacled arms, cleaving the poor Marines before they could react. Those who lived through the first moments of the assault only did so to witness the horrors that befell their comrades, before ultimately falling themselves. As the creatures start to swarm the soldier behind the camera, the video is cut suddenly. Almost if on cue, as we remove the recording from our helmet, we hear a similar, hellish scream, and our radar lights up with movement in every direction. The same indescribable horrors from the recording are now shambling towards us, and we fight for our lives to escape the facility. Using every last piece of ammo, grabbing any stray weapon or grenade we find from some poor soul who hadn't been able to use it, ducking through passages to avoid safety-locked doors. We refuse to let this damned and cursed place be our end. Nearing the surface, we're relieved to hear a Pelican pilot call out over the comms and arrange a unit to assist in our making it topside. However, just as we're reaching the exfil site, a strange golden glow envelops us and spirits us away to a new part of the jungle. And it's here we're face to face with a new entity, the 343 Guilty Spark. Immediately questioning the smug drone, we learned that it was activated upon detection of the flood, those undead horrors we had just encountered. Short on details, the Spark informs us that as at least partial holder of responsibility for the flood's activity, we are responsible for activating Halo and wiping out the flood. Having seen the destruction of these flood, and assuming that control of such a weapon that's capable of wiping them out is better off in the hands of the humans than Covenant, the Chief goes along with the Spark's plan. Teleported again in the gold waves of energy, we're brought to a new section of the previous installation. Racing through story after story of this gigantic structure, we eventually take an elevator that leads us to the Index, a sort of activation key for the Halo weapons platform. With the help of the Spark's assistant drones known as Sentinels, we take the Index and fight our way back to Cortana and the main control room. With both the Flood and Covenant setting fire to our backs, the Chief attempts to bring Halo online and activate the weapons to target the Flood. Cortana suddenly appears and halts the process. Much to Chief's confusion, Cortana informs him that we now have to prevent the Halo weapons platform from being activated. She informs us that the Flood in fact can't be wiped out in any traditional method. Instead, the Halo structures were built to target their food source across entire systems, chaining with other Halo platforms to starve an entire galaxy of the Flood. Not only does 343 Guilty Spark not deny this reality, it's shocked that we hadn't been aware of this the whole time. Why else would we be here? The Flood are the greatest danger to the galaxy, such that all measures must be taken. Cortana steals the Index, and Master Chief scoops her back up into his suit, blasting their way out of the control room. With the forces of the Covenant, Flood, Guilty Spark, and their Sentinels, combined to the added thread of the true purpose behind Halo, we decide our only option is to blow up Halo and remove the threat of anyone activating it. Short on supplies, outnumbered, and no allies, we head to reconnect with Captain Keyes with a final, desperate plan. If we can convince the captain to overload the Pillar of Autumn's engines, it just might be powerful enough to blow a hole right through the ring structure. Zeroing in on Keyes' signature, however, it begins to flicker and fade. Racing to the source, back on the ship, Truth and Reconciliation, we hear his distorted screams cutting through our comms. By the time we reach him, it's already too late. Taking a moment, one brief moment of respect in the midst of a whirlwind of war and deception. We hang our head, then retrieve his neural implant to carry out our plan. Stealing a Covenant Banshee from the hangar, we head for the Pillar of Autumn with deadly intent. We discover the remnants of Covenant scavenging crews under siege by a horde of Flood. Surprisingly, these seemingly mindless undead actually appear interested in the ship as well, though we don't wait to find out why. As we head for the central core, we discover, quite annoyingly, that the guilty Spark is also at the ship, pillaging the Autumn's data archives, stealing records from the entirety of human history. We can hear him make mention of some connection he finds meaningful, but it's no matter, as we finish sending a rocket down the last exhaust shaft, triggering a grand chain reaction. As explosions tear through the walls all around us, we navigate the crumbling ship till we find the main elevator up to the transport section of the ship. Commandeering a Warthog Jeep, we make the access tunnels of Autumn into our own personal rally course, drifting through enemy combatants and flying off ramps through explosions like an 80s flick. After a final series of knuckle-gripping jumps across chasms, we're forced to abandon our Warthog for a final sprint to our evac ship, mowing down the last of the enemies in our path. In the safety of our own craft, we drift to a safe distance as Halo breaks apart in the distance. Pieces shatter into other pieces till nothing of the original shape remains. As the pressure of battle is finally lifted from our shoulders, and the weight of our actions done in the name of war set in, we remove our helmet for the first time and take a breath. That brings us to the end of the campaign for the game, Halo Combat Evolved. This was a huge landmark game in my history as a gamer, and I hope I did it justice for all of you here today. With so much packed into this title, I unfortunately had to skip some of the more deeper lore that we only get brushes of during the first game. That does mean, however, that there's still plenty of content to come back to if I decide to revisit for a deeper dive. Next week, I'll be covering Legend of Legaia, a JRPG published in 1998 for the original PlayStation system. This was the first in-depth story game I remember ever playing to completion as a kid, and I can't wait to share it with all of you. Thanks again for hanging out. Have a good one.